Good afternoon, and I'd like to start by introducing you to the man who's inspired the work that I've been doing for the past 5 years, my late husband, Jeff. Jeff had dementia, and when he had to move to a care home for what turned out to be the final 13 months of his life, the staff never had a chance to know the man he'd been. All they saw was somebody profoundly confused, unable to wash, dress, or even eat without help. And because he was unable to communicate, mistakes would happen that would impact on his already low quality of life. So there was always someone who hadn't got the message that he drank his tea black, and they'd offer him a cup of milky tea. And that might sound innocuous enough, but on a particularly bad weekend when I was unable to visit, it meant that he became severely dehydrated. And the impact of that was that he never walked properly again. So I developed a very simple chart to share the information that mattered to Jeff, and variations of that original version are now in use in over 1,000 care homes and hospitals throughout the UK. A company called Peninsula Community Health ran a 6-month trial and established, amongst a number of other benefits, that they were able to reduce the average length of stay, so thus generating significant cost savings. So I'm proud of the work that I've done so far and the fact that it's been recognised with a number of awards. But I realised there was more to do when hospitals started talking to me about the charts, and it was clear that their challenge was in collecting the information about a person in the first place. And the further research I did, the more clear it became how dreadful the outcomes are for somebody with dementia in hospital. They can spend up to 4 times longer than the average person in hospital, and they're more likely to experience dehydration, malnutrition, levels of anxiety and confusion. And the most vulnerable amongst them have just 3% chance of having their needs met. So it's already a huge problem, and it's only going to get worse. 25% of UK hospital beds are currently filled by people with dementia. The average age of a patient is 80, and when you think that the number of people over 85 is set to more than double in the next 20 years, this is the group of people who are going to be taking up the majority of hospital beds, and they are, by definition, the ones most likely to have some form of cognitive impairment. And it's the same throughout Western Europe. The cost to the European economy in 2015 was an eye-watering 269 billion euros. So I've developed something called Mycarematters. It's an online platform where somebody or their carer can upload the information they want to share with healthcare professionals that's needed in order to provide person-centered care. So information can be their favorite music, religious beliefs, the food they like, excuse me, and dislike, and information about their hearing or eyesight. When they've created a record, we provide them with a unique code, and hospital staff can tap that into any internet-connected device to access and either view online or print out a person's information. Sorry. We're trying to speed up that process now with better use of tech, but even now, in less than a minute, a member of staff can access more information about an individual than they would ever have even thought to ask for. I don't want the cost to be a barrier to anybody to create a Mycarematters record, so the idea is that the basic service would be entirely free to every individual. They'd then be able to subscribe to an enhanced service. Care homes will be invited to buy annual licenses, and I've been given good reason to believe that our clinical commissioning groups will commission Mycarematters to be made available in places like GP surgeries and hospitals. We've actually just had an order from a large acute hospital for display boards and training, so I'm also confident the training might become another source of revenue. We're running a trial in a couple of small community hospitals at the moment, and I'd like to tell you about Reg briefly. Reg is 94. He lives with his wife Betty, 92, and he's frequently admitted to hospital because he doesn't drink enough and ends up with kidney infections. This means he's often very unsteady on his feet and even delirious. And he's already had 2 falls in this current stay, and his wife Betty was explaining to me that at home he always has his walker parked by his bed so that he can get to the bathroom independently. And that hasn't been happening in hospital. So I asked her if she'd shared this information with staff, and she hadn't. It was clear that she felt that it was not her place to do so, and she didn't want to interfere. But she was quite happy for that information to go onto his Mycarematters record. So there is this sense of expectation that hospitals know best, and we don't want to bother them. So by creating a record in advance, one can sidestep those issues altogether. So we now need funding to expand that current trial, to be able to commission an independent report on the outcomes. We have a marketing strategy ready to roll out, and we obviously need to further refine and develop the website itself. Lots of things have been happening very recently for Mycarematters. I have an increasingly strong board of advisors who are very proactive, and the Helix Centre, which is a prestigious group of designers embedded in one of the top teaching hospitals in London, have expressed their desire to work with me to enhance the service. And then I'm talking to a lot of charitable organisations like Parkinson's UK and Alzheimer's Society, who will be key to reaching the people who stand most to benefit from a Mycarematters record. So with your financial assistance, Mycarematters has the potential to improve the outcomes of a hospital visit for many thousands of people like Jeff. Thank you for listening.